Hi guys, welcome back to In Case of Econ Struggles. Today we've got a Stata struggle for you. We're going over the basics of Stata, doing a brief overview of the software. So here I've got Stata 17 open. You may be using an older version of Stata, totally fine. Everything that we're going to talk about today and in all these videos will work in older versions of Stata as well. So let's go ahead and get started. So I'm going to type something in this command window. We're not going to worry too much about it in terms of what it does. All you really need to know is it's going to read in a sample data set. So Stata comes preloaded with some example data sets, and this auto data set is one of those that we're going to be using over the course of these videos. So we've got a couple things that popped up when I ran that command. We've got some stuff that came up over here, some stuff in this main window, and then also some stuff popped up over here to the right. So I think it's going to be most helpful to start from the left and go to the right. All right, so let's get started. First off, this upper bar has some stuff in it as well. It is useful, but we are going to be doing most of our stuff with commands instead of clicking. So we're not really going to worry about this window bar too much right now. So notice I ran this command, sysUseAuto, and it popped up in the command log. So this just keeps a log of everything you've tried to do. In Stata, useful for keeping track if you're trying different things out to, again, put them into your do file. We'll cover that do file in a future video. Now, it's also nice that when you have this command log, it will also keep track of whether or not you had an error. So if I just do a simple generate of this count, and then I try to reread in the auto data, it'll give me an error. And in the log, it'll tell me, hey, you tried to do this command, and it gave you this error code 4. What is this error code 4? Error code 4 says, no. Stata says, I'm not going to do this because you're trying to read in data, but you haven't told me to clear or save the data set you already had. Again, we'll get into that in a future video, but we're focused on this command log. Now, this window right here will just keep a running tally of what you've done. It'll also display some results. What do I mean by results? Well, I can ask Stata to describe this data set for me. So if I just say describe, then Stata will just spit out everything it knows about this current data set. Here's where it is. Here's the observations and variables, and then the list of the variables, what type of variable they are, how they're formatted, and whether or not the variables have any label, and then the sort, and as well as any notes. So that is what we call the command window or the output window. And let's go ahead and move over to this variables window, where we have very similar information that we got from describe, but this is more permanent. We can look at this whenever we want. It's always going to be available to us on this right-hand side, and I can make it bigger or not as big by clicking and dragging. Now let's make it a little readable. Again, I can choose name and label to be as long or narrow as I want. If I click a variable, so let's just click, I don't know, trunk. So this is trunk space in cubic feet. If I go down to this properties window down here, say the name and the label, again, just like we have in this describe, just like we have in this variable list, but then it'll also tell me, all right, this is an integer and it's formatted as a %8. So it's just a number with no fancy formatting. If I click something where I know it's a string or a text or a bunch of letters, I can click make, and again, it's a string with a length of 18, which we will see that'll even make more sense in a little bit. If we scroll down a little bit to the data section, we're going to have some information about the data set as a whole. Don't worry about this frame. That's a Stata 17 thing. This file name, this is the name of the data. This is the label that's been given to this data set. We have 13 variables, 74 observations. So this is 13 columns by 74 rows. This is the size of the data set. This is how much memory it takes up. So it's 64 megabytes in my computer. And it is currently sorted by this foreign variable. Now, if we want to take an even deeper look at the data, we can type this br or browse command, and it'll open up this data editor where we have some similar buttons. Again, we're not messing with those because all of our stuff in Stata is going to be done with commands, with written commands. And we can see the full data set. So I can scroll through all 74 rows, and I can see all 13 columns. And I can play around, I can poke around. If you have bigger data sets, right, it doesn't necessarily make sense to open it up and scroll through, but sometimes it's helpful to open up that data window and take a look at what's happening. Now, the other window that I'm going to introduce that's going to be super important is going to be the do file editor. So here you have two options. You can click Window, Do File Editor, New Do File Editor. Notice that it says Control+9 here. So if I'm just in the window and I hit Control+9 at the same time, it'll open up this new do file. Now, this do file is going to be super important. It's so important that we're going to do a whole separate video just on the do file. And we will get much more into this. We will use this a lot. So I am not going to cover that in super detail now. So hopefully this video gave you a good introduction into Stata, and make sure to like and subscribe to keep up with the future Stata struggle videos. And we will see you next time for another case of econ struggles.